All right, time for episode 4 of Fact Check This Podcast. I guess I wanted to start out. I'm not really sure what kind of schedule I'm going to do on this until people actually start like listening and paying attention and suggesting that I have some sort of a set schedule. I'm just kind of doing it on days that I have time in the mornings to sit down and knock something like this out before work. So if anybody has any recommendations for like a schedule of how many episodes a week and when during the week would be a good time to do it, I'm definitely open to suggestions because as of right now, I'm just kind of winging it and putting one out whenever I have an opportunity. I'll probably do at least 2 or 3 this week, especially since it's election week and everything is kind of crazy and it's gonna get even more crazy. And that's the big thing that I wanted to talk about today is the election, not so much Donald Trump, Joe Biden, or Joe Jorgensen. You should vote for Joe Jorgensen. But what I really wanted to talk about was some of my thoughts on how things will go after the election, and I also wanted to explain my proposal for how I think elections should be decided. And this is going to be fun. So to start off, I think there should be no incumbents. Period. You've got, and I think that should go for every position there is. You can run, you can do your term, be it 2, 4, 6 years, however long it is, and at the end of that, you don't get to run again. Now, after somebody else has had their turn, you can come back and you can try again later, but you don't get to have consecutive terms. Like, you need to go. Everybody needs to go. You get that 2, 4, or 6 years to figure it out, get it right, and make some changes, or you're gone at the end of it. Like, regardless of whether you accomplish anything, you're gone. I think that would actually motivate politicians to get off their asses and do something. Quit bogging the entire country down in the bureaucratic bullshit that everybody, at least every common person, hates. Because, like, government never accomplishes anything. We all know that the government never accomplishes anything. And the reason they don't accomplish anything is because they have no motivation to accomplish anything, because they're going to be there in perpetuity as long as they're able to get enough money and get enough votes and con enough people into thinking that they're actually there to support the people that they supposedly represent. So no incumbents ever. Like, you've got, say, the President of the United States, you got 4 years to get shit done. And if you haven't gotten shit done in that 4 years, you're gone. And even if you did get stuff done, wonderful, good for you. You're still gone. Like, time for somebody else to give it a try. So I think the primaries should be handled more or less how they are. Like, just take a whole slew of idiots, put them up on a stage, and let them beat the hell out of each other, asking questions and going at each other's throats and trying to prove why each of them is terrible. And then at the end of the whole primary season, we get to go to the primaries, and the top 3 from each party, the Democrats and the Republicans and the Libertarians, if we want to get them involved as well. I think they should be, but just to really make the 2-party system actually functional and serve a purpose, like, I think you take the top 3 from each at the end of the primaries, and then leading up to the election itself, they have to go through a series of Jeopardy-like challenges. And at the end of these Jeopardy-like challenges where they compete against each other, they have to answer questions, and they'll be given points for answering questions correctly. And this is all going to be televised so that we can all see just what morons they really are. And at the end of it, there has to be a minimum threshold of points accumulated showing that they actually have at least a bare minimum amount of knowledge about the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, all the different amendments, certain laws, foreign policy, stuff like that. Like, there needs to be kind of a more or less the Jeopardy challenges would be a cumulative test to prove that they at least have some understanding of what's going on and how the country and how everything actually works and how it was supposed to work based on the founding of the country. So after they've gone through all this, they do their Jeopardy challenges. Whoever wins from each party, they then have to have a boxing match. And whoever comes out on top, that's your president. Whoever finished number 2 in the Jeopardy challenges leading up to the election, that's the one who gets to be vice president. So then that eliminates old people who have been in politics for a million years, because nobody's gonna bank on their octogenarian Joe Biden that's been in office for 50 years and is in clear mental decline. Like, nobody's betting on him to get in a ring and box with anybody. So then you're going to actually get people who are a little bit younger, a little bit more physically fit, running for the offices, and you can get some real competition. Plus, it takes care of the spineless transition of power that I talked about last week, where like nobody has any fear of losing anything in these elections, because sincerely they don't lose anything. Anybody that loses an election, okay, so look at Mitt Romney, for example. So Mitt Romney was the governor of Massachusetts, and then he ran for president and lost, and now he's a senator in Utah. Like, none of these politicians ever go away. Losing is not the end of the road for them. If you've made your bed and you've gotten yourself in good with the right people, and especially with the right money people along the way, then all you have to do is just keep riding that out, and they'll move you wherever you need to go and put you in a position to get elected. I mean, look at Romney, for instance, is a perfect candidate for that. They moved him to Utah. He's Mormon. They moved him to the Mormon capital of the state, or of the country. They put him in a position to get himself reelected over and over again. None of these guys ever actually fall out of power. How many of these politicians that got caught in the middle of like terrible, crooked scandals are now deans or head of different colleges and universities? If that doesn't tell you that the universities and the colleges are fucking indoctrination centers being run by the government, look at how many either loser governors or senators or ones that got caught up in scandal and got run out of office are now working at these colleges and universities. It is a joke. It's a bad joke. Like, I don't understand how people don't see that your politician losing doesn't mean anything. Like, that just means they move into a different position somewhere else in the country and get to continue doing the same stuff that they've been doing forever. It never ends. It never stops. And that's why we need, like, no incumbents. We've got to do, something's got to be done to break the system. Like, these people have got to be removed from the office that they're in now and not allowed to move into a different office somewhere else. I mean, something's got to be done, because it is government as it is a largely what's the word I'm looking for? Incestuous creature. I believe, so I might be wrong on this, and if I am, somebody correct me. I'm pretty sure Gavin Newsom is Nancy Pelosi's nephew. I mean, you had the first George H.W. Bush, followed by George W. Bush. You've got Jeb Bush. Look at the Kennedys. Joe Biden and all of his connected brothers and son for everything that's coming out, everything that's coming out on that now. Like, shoot, as soon as Trump got in office, all of his kids became cabinet members. Like, the whole thing is nepotism, and it's all incest. Like, it's all the same people just moving around to different parts of the country, different positions, different roles. Nothing ever changes, and we the people ignore it. We wholesale ignore the fact that none of these people have any accountability to do anything with any level of moral compass. Like, they just get to do whatever they want, and it's a shame. Yeah. I can't believe. I guess I wish I could say this with sincerity. I can't believe that the country has reached this point as far as the government goes, but then again, as I've talked about previously, this is the way that government works. It's the reason that communism doesn't work, because, and if you've never read it, you should, just for shits and giggles, if nothing else, read the Communist Manifesto and look at what Karl Marx, said and believed, and like the ideas of it and the ideals of it. They're good. They're on face value. They're not bad. Like, it's a interesting thought piece, and it's very unique in that manner, and it would be interesting to see it work if it actually worked. But the problem that you have is the same problem we have with every form of government, is that it is just this big incestuous creature that there are going to be people who elevate themselves into positions of power, even in the most, utopian view of communism or socialism. There are going to ultimately be people who use the opportunity to put themselves in positions of power. And then when they get in positions of power, everybody who is related to them or connected to them, friends of theirs, those people get other positions of power. And then the people who are connected to them get positions of power. And eventually it turns into the ruling class and all the rest of us. And that's the way every single governmental system works, period. And the fact that people think government exists to solve problems or is going to make anything better is absolutely asinine. Like, historically, it has been proven that that doesn't work, and it never will work. There is no government that is going to long-term work to make anything better for anyone, ever. It's been kind of, so talking about the no incumbent thing, it's been kind of historically proven that I think, at least for the presidential, like, there should definitely be term limits for Congress and everything, and term limits for Supreme Court justices. Like, everybody connected to politics should have a term limit. But one of the things that has been kind of historically proven out is that the second term for president, at least modern presidents, like in most of our lifetimes, their second term doesn't work out. The second term is always worse than the first, and I mean, it's because they know they're on their way out. Like, they're, when you're in your first term, you're fighting for that second term, so you're trying to get stuff done, and you're trying to accomplish things, and you're trying to leave your mark so that people will vote for you again. Well, once you've gotten past that first term, in your second term, you don't get to come back. So where's the motivation? And they make piss poor decisions, and they'll do things that they know would not get them reelected, because they don't have to worry about it. They're not getting reelected anyway. So that's the big reason I think one term for president especially should be an absolute must. Like, you've got 4 years to figure it out, and if you can't figure it out, you're gone. And if you do figure it out, great. you're still gone. So you better make the most of this 4 years, because you don't get another one. You don't get to rest on your laurels in the next 4 years. So that's the big thing that that kind of worries me, or that's the big thing that I really look at when I don't think there should ever be a president, an incumbent president. Like, you got 4 years and then you got to get the fuck out. It's time for somebody else. So something interesting that's going on across the world right now. We've been seeing the riots and the chaos for the last 6 months or however long here in the United States, ever since the George Floyd thing. But what's really crazy about it is that's going on all over the world. I strongly recommend you go and listen to last night's episode of Free Man Beyond the Wall, where he and his guests talk about a lot of this kind of stuff. They get really into the weeds with some of it. It's a little more in-depth than I'm able to or really care to go. But, like, there is mass unrest across the globe right now. And it's all kind of leading up to this election and the next round of COVID lockdowns. Like, the world governments are finding reasons to lock everybody down again. The totalitarian government that has kind of emerged from this COVID pandemic, it's not going to stop. And government never gives back power that it's taken. It always just expounds on the power. So it's not going to stop. And there is no way, no matter how this election goes, that any of this gets better. I mean, you're already starting to see New York, Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, like all these major metropolitan cities across the country. People are boarding up windows and doors and preparing for massive riots after this election. Which, I thought the promise was that if Joe Biden got elected, that all of that would end, that would just fix all of the problems. And Biden is leading in all of the polls. So why, in these big leftist cities, are they boarding everything up? Like, what do they know that we don't know? And it's not that they know anything we don't know. It's that they already know what I've been saying for a while now, and that's that it does not matter who wins. This civil unrest, the riots, the burning everything to the ground, it's not going to end with Joe Biden being elected. And it's definitely not going to end if Trump is reelected. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Whatever the outcome of this election is, what you're going to get is more riots, more chaos, more violence, more burning everything to the ground. It's not going to end. And everybody in these big cities knows it. I mean, they said it jokingly on it was a podcast I was listening to the other, I guess it was Dave Smith's Part of the Problem. He said that there were riots and they were burning stuff down in Philadelphia. And Robbie the Fire Bernstein, his co-host, said, "Oh, did they win something? Because that's the way it goes in these big cities. If they win a Super Bowl or win a World Series, win whatever, they burn the city down. And if they lose, they burn the city down. It doesn't fucking matter. If they win or lose, they're gonna burn it all down." And everybody knows that. And like Trump or Biden, neither one of them being elected in this time around is going to solve any of the problems that this country currently faces. Shit, Joe Biden created 90% of the problems we have in his 50 years in the government. He has had every opportunity in the world to fix it, and every legislation that he has put forward has actually created the problems that we have now. And people know that. They know he's not coming in to fix anything. He's just a continuation of everything that's wrong with the country and everything that's wrong with government. Kamala Harris is a continuation of everything that's wrong with the police state. That's why in the primary she got no votes. Like, she got absolutely washed out of the primaries because she is total hot garbage. And everybody knows it. And this is what the Democrats gave you. Because, like, the Democrats did not give you what you wanted. The Democrats gave you what they thought you needed. And that's the way government works. They don't give you what you want. They give you what they think you need, because they are your benevolent overlords who know better than you do. It's why I hope to God Eric Holcomb gets just booted straight the fuck out of Indiana and Donald Rainwater comes in, because Holcomb has all the answers and he's seen all the data, and he won't let anybody else see any of that. That he knows what's best for you. You don't know what's best for you. And fuck that. That's not the way it works. We are supposed to be the people who are in charge of the government and who get to make our decisions for ourselves. Whew, got a little heated there. But back to what I was talking about, like, everybody knows that no matter what happens in this election, nothing is going to change at all. Absolutely nothing changes. It's just going to keep going forward. And we're either going back to status quo of 6 years ago, or we're going to continue with status quo of the past 4 years. But no matter what, nothing actually changes. And honestly, with Trump, what's really changed? Like, other than the media acting like buffoons on a literally daily basis, nothing has changed with anything that's going on in the government. And it's all just so ridiculous that people think that a new politician is going to change anything. And then we don't even get a new politician. We get one that's been in office for 50 years. What I sincerely believe is Joe Biden wins or Trump wins. Either way. If Biden wins, then the West Coast breaks off. Not literally breaks off, but California, or if Trump wins, California, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, they secede. They just say, bye, we're out. At that point, if that happens, the Northwest, to the New York and New Jersey and everything northeast of that, along with Philadelphia, probably Delaware, that eastern corner of Pennsylvania, that all breaks off and says, all right, we're out too, we're going to start our own thing. If Biden wins, so in that scenario, we end up with two isolated city-states of their own, or state countries of their own, that secede from the rest of the United States, and then you get three separate countries. In the event of a Biden victory, if Biden really does go back to the status quo of what Democrats normally do, which is raise taxes and bomb third world countries into oblivion, and really not a lot other than that, then I don't see much changing. But if Biden comes into office and they immediately start trying to make D.C. and Puerto Rico states, start trying to cram the Supreme Court with new nominees and pack the court, if they start trying to enact mandatory mask mandates nationwide, mandatory lockdowns nationwide, like they start showing full tyrannical overreach on a broad federal level, then at that point I can see the middle of the country splitting off. I think the way it would look, it would be Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, Kansas, that would probably be Arkansas, split off and become its own, maybe Arizona, split off and become its own country and say, we're out, we're not doing this, like, we're going to secede. And then you also would have the Southeast, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, the Carolinas, and Tennessee would also secede and become its own country. And then you get kind of the more middle part of the country, Kentucky, Ohio, the western part of West Virginia, the western part of Pennsylvania, Indiana, southern Illinois, not Chicago, and then Missouri would split off and become its own country. At that point, the West Coast would be isolated from everything else, so then they could go ahead and do what they wanted to do. They're already talking about wanting to do it now anyway, and get what I talked about in the Trump scenario, where California, Oregon, Washington, and Nevada forms its own country, and then I think you would get the the frontier states would kind of form their own thing: Idaho, Montana, the Dakotas, Nebraska, and possibly Colorado and Utah would kind of form its own thing, and then the Great Lakes states and the Northeast would become its own thing. So in the end, you end up with a very Western Europe type of formation for the country, where you've got 5 to 7 small countries within what used to be the United States. And I have absolutely no opposition to that whatsoever. So I think if that proposition scares you because of where you currently live, you should really be making some preparations to get out of where you are now and get to whatever part of the country it is you would want to be in if that were to happen. Because as much as that might sound completely ridiculous and you might think, oh, that would never happen, I sincerely believe we are not just slowly stepping closer and closer to that, but I think from tomorrow on to the end of the year, we are in full 100-yard dash sprint mode going towards that outcome. There is a part of me that hopes I'm wrong. I hope it's Biden comes in and just doesn't do anything and the world continues as is. But that's not the world we live in anymore. COVID has proven that. And it's all going to get really hairy, and it's going to get there really quick. So I hope you're all prepared. Check out some websites and different stuff on how to grow your own plants, agorism and all that kind of stuff, how to be self-sufficient, because there is a very real possibility that you're going to need it. And we can't take you all in at our house. We'll be fine. Hope you will be too. I'll follow up again later in the week, and we'll probably talk about the election. Speaking of that, I promote the Peddling Fiction podcast all the time. Do some work for those guys, or for Johnny and that podcast. He is going to be on the Death to Tyrants podcast on Wednesday. They'll be doing a debate recap. I suspect that'll be releasing either Thursday or Friday, so go check out Peddling Fiction, Death to Tyrants, Free Man Beyond the Wall, and while you're at it, check out the Lions of Liberties guys. There is so much information out there in the podcast world that you should be able to fill up every day listening to people who are way better at talking about this shit than I am. So I'm going to wrap there. Have a good day, everybody, and I'll talk to you later.